Cool mornings, hot days, chilling nights, filled with crime scenes, graveyards, and the scariest ranch on this planet. But what place gave me chills that ran through my body? Let's find out right now. Happy Thriller Thursday, my Cajun cuties. Yes, it's me, Anne Marie, aka the Cajun Crime Queen from Carrico, Louisiana. Cajun born, Cajun bred, and when I die, I'll be Cajun dead. I hope after this video that you like, subscribe, and comment, and don't forget to press on that notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne Marie. I hope you have a beverage. I hope you have a snuggle partner or a snuggle fur partner. Those are the best, and you are ready to hear a true crime story with yours truly. And as always, I want to know, are y'all drinking that water? Are y'all getting those tickers up? Are you going for brisk 20, 30-minute walks every day? Remember, just a quick walk in the morning, get those endorphins up first thing in the morning. You are going to have an amazing, wonderful day. Trust me, I promise you. And today, I am going to share with y'all my trip to Hollywood. So get ready, fasten your seatbelts, because this is going to be a crazy, scary ride. Today, I'm going to give y'all a play-by-play, an exclusive look at my trip to Hollywood. All 7 days, I'm going to share with y'all every place that I went. And of course, we are going to start on my first day. And on my first day, of course, the first place I visited was the grave of my girl, Hollywood icon, my favorite, my idol, Marilyn Monroe. She is always the first stop that I go to when I go to Hollywood. I always go to her grave, give her a big kiss, give her flowers, and tell her how much I admire her. She is buried at Pierce Brothers Memorial, and I tell you, that graveyard is filled with tons of celebrities. I'm talking about Farrah Fawcett, Ryan O'Neal, Dominique Dunn, Natalie Wood, the Arm & Hammer family, Dorothy Stratton, Peter Bogdanovich, Rodney Dangerfield, Don Knotts, just to name a few. And I also got to see Richard Simmons' beautiful bouquet of flowers as he was just buried at Pierce Brothers Memorial. Not long before I got there, Richard Simmons was laid to rest near Marilyn Monroe. But on this day, on this trip to Pierce Brothers, something happened to me. I experienced something that will touch my heart forever. And I'm going to share it with y'all now. As I'm walking through the cemetery, I spot this little man sitting at a grave. And alongside of him, he has a picture and a cup of coffee. And he's sitting there, and you could tell by his face that he is grieving, that something is troubling him. I got in the car, and I got back out of the car, and I said, I feel the need to embrace this man. I feel the need to go up to him and ask him if he's okay. And as I approach this man, he informs me that he is there visiting the grave of his wife who died not long ago. This man looks about in his 90s. He looks like he's very sad, and he holds her picture dear to his heart. He told me all about his wife that he had lost and how much he loved her and adored her. And he also told me that he visited his wife every single day. And that love right there that he had for his wife just came over me and showed me how much in love he was with his wife and how much he missed his wife every single day. And I will never forget that trip to Hollywood on that day in Pierce Brothers Memorial. That changed me forever to know that a love can go that deep and that strong even after death. And y'all don't think that Marilyn Monroe's grave was the only place that I go to remember Marilyn Monroe. Oh no, next I traveled down to her home where she lived and the very first house that she bought by herself. And sadly, when she passed away in August of 1962. You can't really see anything because there's a huge gate covering the home, but every time I go to Hollywood, I go to her home, stop in front of the gates, close my eyes, and just picture Marilyn Monroe running down that street or driving up that driveway to her home. It is a beautiful Spanish-style home. I absolutely love Marilyn Monroe. And as y'all all know, her home was almost demolished just a couple of months ago. But we all signed the petition and we saved the home of Marilyn Monroe. Because as y'all know, you can't tear down the home of a Hollywood icon. There's no other person like Marilyn Monroe. There will never be another Marilyn Monroe. She was a true Hollywood icon and the biggest sex symbol. She was an amazing person and an incredible movie star and one of the most beautiful people in the world. So we all have to remember Marilyn Monroe and keep her spirit alive. Next, I traveled to the home of where Dr. Amy Hardwick was sadly murdered on February 15th, 2020 by her ex-boyfriend, Gareth Pursehouse. As you all know, I covered Amy's story on my channel, not once, but twice. She holds a dear place in my heart because, as you all know, I am a victim of domestic violence, and so was Dr. Amy Hardwick. I went to her home, I saw her home, and it broke my heart more than you could imagine to know that this vibrant, beautiful woman sadly lost her life at the age of 38. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was a wonderful woman doing wonderful things in this world, but she was brutally murdered at her home the day after Valentine's Day by her ex-boyfriend, who is now in jail for the rest of his life. Next, I traveled to Laurel Canyon. And before I tell y'all the home that I went to, I just have to tell y'all this. Laurel Canyon is absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. As I was traveling up the mountain, of course, it's very scary because here in Louisiana, we don't have mountains, we don't have cliffs, it's very flat, just Louisiana. But in Hollywood, in California, it is gorgeous, stunning, breathtaking, literally will take your breath away. I stopped on the side of the road and just took it all in, and it was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. But what happened in Laurel Canyon was heartbreaking and devastating and brutal. Yes, I traveled to the Wonderland House on Wonderland Avenue, where a horrific, brutal, disgusting murder took place. 4 people were brutally murdered on Wonderland Avenue in a home. It was said that a very famous movie star that did very explicit, famous movies, John Holmes, y'all get my drift? It was said that he saw what happened in the home. It was also said that the murder was ordered by this famous drug dealer, Eddie Nash. But no one has ever been convicted of this brutal murder. A brutal murder took place back on July 1st, 1981. And sadly, 4 people lost their lives and 1 person was seriously injured. This was a very brutal attack. It was said that these people broke into Eddie Nash's house and he wanted to get revenge. So he knew John Holmes had something to do with it. So he decided that he was going to make John Holmes watch his people brutally murder these people. But no one has ever been convicted of this murder. It is all he said, she said. No one has ever taken the blame for this brutal murder that happened. Next, I traveled down the Hollywood Hills to the home of Ashley Ellerin. Ashley Ellerin sadly lost her life on February 21st, 2001 in Hollywood, California. I covered Ashley Ellerin on my YouTube channel just a couple of months ago. Ashley was brutally murdered by Michael Gargiulo, aka the Hollywood Ripper. Ashley was getting ready for a date with the famous actor Ashton Kutcher when Michael broke into her home and brutally stabbed her several times. It was a brutal scene. And it was said that Michael Gargiulo would sit in the dog park and watch Ashley Ellerin. And as I stood in front of Ashley's home, directly behind me was a dog park. It was very secluded. It was beautiful. It was open. And if you sit on the bench, you can directly see inside the home of Ashley Ellerin. There is a huge gate in front of the home now. I don't know if that gate was there back in February of 2001, but if that gate was not there and you sit in that dog park, you can directly see the home of Ashley Ellerin and you can see inside. Michael Gargiulo attended several parties in that home that Ashley Ellerin hosted. So he knew the entire layout of that home. And he walked in there, brutally murdered her, and left. And it was said that Michael Gargiulo had several other victims. Michael Gargiulo, aka the Hollywood Ripper, is serving a life term in jail where he should be, because he is a horrible human being for ending the life of Ashley Ellerin when she was only 22 years old. She did not deserve to lose her life. And as I stood in front of that home, I thought to myself, what did Ashley go through inside of that home on that February night? Next, I traveled to the home of Rebecca Schaeffer. And just a couple of weeks ago, I covered Rebecca Schaeffer on my YouTube channel. She sadly lost her life on July 18th, 1989, when she was brutally murdered by an obsessed fan, a stalker, Robert John Bardo. He was obsessed with Rebecca Schaeffer. He went to the DMV, he hired a PI, he found out her address, and he decided to go to her home, ring the doorbell, and she was expecting a script to try out for the part of Mary on The Godfather 3 to play Al Pacino and Diane Keaton's daughter. She was very excited about this part. It would be a huge part for her. But when she came down the stairs, it wasn't a carrier. It was Robert John Bardo. He came not once but twice, and the second time he raised a gun to Rebecca Schaeffer and murdered her on the front steps of her home. And when I was standing in front of this home, I thought to myself, this is a beautiful home. This is not a lavish home in the Hollywood Hills that's, hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not a 20,000 square foot home. This is not a home in Beverly Hills. It was a regular modern home, a beautiful home that this Hollywood actress lived in. And she walked down the stairs and was murdered by a fan at such a young age. Rebecca Schaeffer lost her life because Robert John Bardo was so obsessed with her, and he said to himself that she was becoming another Hollywood whore, which was absolutely untrue. She played a part in a movie. There was nothing wrong with what Rebecca Schaeffer was doing, and he took her life for absolutely no reason. Robert John Bardo is serving a life term, and he will never get out of jail. Another horrible human being that took the life of a beautiful Hollywood actress. That same night, I traveled back up the Hollywood Hills as I wanted to see Hollywood at night. I went to the top of the Hollywood Hills, the highest I can go, and looked over that cliff, and y'all, I took in all the beautiful scenes of Hollywood. It was absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. It is a whole different scene at night. And I just embraced the feeling of the Hollywood lights at night. All the lights, the city, the chilling air, the coldness. It was a beautiful scene. And I took that in and I stood there and I said to myself, this is one of the most beautiful scenes I had ever seen in my life. Hollywood is beautiful at night, especially way at the top of the mountains in the Hollywood Hills. The next day, I traveled to Brentwood to see the home of Nicole Brown Simpson. Nicole Brown Simpson, along with her friend Ronald Goldman, sadly lost their life on June 12, 1994. And as y'all know, I covered her story on my channel back in June. And as I stood in front of her home, which is completely different, it doesn't even look the same anymore. The address is different. The front of the house is different. I said to myself, at night, this place is so dark. It would be so easy for someone to go into that home and brutally murder these two people right outside the home and get away with it. It is a very secluded area. And I hope that Nicole and Ron are rested in peace. The sad part about this whole situation is no one was ever arrested for these murders. No one is paying the time for these murders. Whoever the killer is still out there. But standing in front of that home, I said to myself, this was such a young couple, 35 and 25 years old, a mother to be taken away from her kids when her kids were just so young. Next, I traveled to Culver City to visit the grave of Sharon Tate Polanski. And as you all know, Sharon Tate Polanski was brutally murdered, horrifically murdered, along with her baby and her friends on August 9, 1969 by the Manson family. Charles Manson ordered that Sharon Tate and her friends be murdered. And as I was standing at her grave, it was so surreal. It was chilling. And I put my hand on her grave. And I said to myself, even 55 years later, it is still a very chilling thought to know that this woman and her baby lost their lives for absolutely no reason. The Manson family brutally murdered Sharon Tate. And all she wanted to do, as she begged for her life, was to have her little baby, Paul Richard Polanski. It is the most beautiful graveyard I had ever seen. Holy Cross Cemetery up in Culver City. Absolutely stunning graveyard. I will never forget that moment of visiting Sharon's grave. Next, I traveled down to 722 Elm Drive in Beverly Hills, California. And as you all know, that is the home where Lyle and Eric Menendez took the lives of their parents on August 20th, 1989. It was a very brutal killing. But that night, Lyle and Eric Menendez decided to stop the abuse from their father, and they decided to grab shotguns and brutally murder their parents in that home. And let me tell you, when I was in front of that home, which I have been several times, that home really has not changed. It looks pretty much the same. It is a beautiful mansion in Beverly Hills, not far walking distance from the Beverly Hills Hotel, from Rodeo Drive, a beautiful home that a brutal murder took place back in August of 1989. Next, I traveled up the Hollywood Hills, way up to the Hollywood Hills where I can see the Hollywood sign. And let me tell y'all, going around and around and around the cliffs, which there really isn't anything to help you. It is very scary, the winding roads and knowing the cliff is right there. But I had to see the sign up close, which I did, and it was spectacular. It was better than I imagined. It was beautiful. And I was so jealous of the people that get to live right there. And every day they get to look outside and the Hollywood sign is right there. It is right in their face every day. How wonderful is that? I looked at it, I took it all in. And then I traveled to Griffith Observatory, where a very famous movie was shot, a movie I have seen more times than I can count, which is Rebel Without a Cause, starring James Dean. Yes, James Dean. I say it again. James Dean, the Hollywood icon. He is pretty much the Marilyn Monroe of men. He was gorgeous, an amazing actor. He would smoke those cigarettes. Oh, just chills down through my body. If that man would have given me a second look, I would have been his girlfriend in a second if he wanted me. But I was there. I was standing where a scene from Rebel Without a Cause was filmed at the Griffith Observatory. I was taking it all in. I saw the statue of him. I went to the place exactly where the scene was shot. And again, you just look down and you see the Hollywood sign. You on top of the mountain. You see the down. It is amazing. You see everything in Hollywood when you're standing on top of the Griffith Observatory. It is beautiful, stunning. Everything is well manicured. A wonderful sight to see. Y'all need to go there. And just to know that James Dean was standing there, that was it for me. That was it. I took it all in and I embraced it right there to know that James Dean was standing at this place filming one of the greatest movies of all time alongside Natalie Wood, who's another wonderful Hollywood actress and icon. And I got to be there. The next place I went was very hard for me. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew that it was going to take a lot for me to go there, but I did. And that is 10,050 Cielo Drive, which is now a whole different address. And it is the home where a brutal murder took place. And it is the home of Sharon Tate, who lost her life along with her baby, along with her friends on August 9th, 1969. The home is no longer there. It was torn down in 1994. The gate that the Manson family crossed over is no longer there. It's a whole different gate. They climbed up that gate on the side of the hills. They jumped over the gate and they went into that home and brutally murdered everyone that was there. Everyone. It was very scary and very hard for me to be there. Even though everything has changed, even though the home isn't there, the gate's not there, the telephone pole that they cut the wires from isn't there, the property is still there. What happened on that property is chilling. To know that on the other side of that gate, a brutal murder took place for no reason. Absolutely no reason. Did Sharon Tate, along with her friends, have to lose their life on the night of August 9th, 1969? And when I was standing there, I thought to myself, what happened? What happened that was, what did Charles Manson and the Manson family believe? What did they think this couple, Roman and Sharon, did to deserve their home to be broken into and for everybody to pass away? That was a very chilling moment for me to know that on the other side of those gates, a brutal murder took place on that property. Next, I traveled to Los Angeles to the home of my favorite playmate, Dorothy Stratton. And as you all know, I covered Dorothy Stratton on my channel just a couple of weeks ago. She is my favorite playmate of all time, besides Marilyn Monroe. Dorothy Stratton was sadly murdered at this home on August 14th, 1980 by her husband, Paul Snider. Dorothy asked for a divorce from Paul. She showed up at the home with cash to give him, which she didn't have to, but she wanted a good closure with her husband, Paul, as she thought she owed him some of her stardom. She was a huge star and just becoming an even bigger star when she was brutally murdered in 1980. And as I stood in front of the home, which I've been several times, I said to myself, this did not have to happen. This could have gone a different route. Dorothy did not have to lose her life like this. But sadly, she was brutally murdered with a shotgun by her husband, Paul Snider, all because she wanted a divorce and wanted out. And she wanted to pursue her relationship with famous director Peter Bogdanovich. And as I told y'all earlier in this video, when I went to Pierce Brothers Memorial, where Marilyn Monroe and Hugh Hefner are buried, Dorothy Stratton is buried there. And Peter Bogdanovich just passed away not too long ago, and he is buried right next to the love of his life, Dorothy Stratton, at Pierce Brothers Memorial. Next, I traveled to the Chinese Theater, which is right across the street from the Hollywood Roosevelt, where I always stay in the Marilyn Monroe suite. And I traveled to the theater to put my hands in the same hands as Marilyn Monroe as she did back. I put my hands each back, and I put my hands. And I'm going to tell y'all a little story, a little Hollywood history. On that night, Marilyn Monroe took out her diamond earring and put it where the eye was in Maryland. She stuffed it in there. Sadly, of course, it was taken by probably a fan, which is kind of weird, but they took the earring out and they stole it from where she placed it that night. But you can still see where the diamond was that very night where she placed it. And a chill runs through my body every time I put my hands inside the same hands as Marilyn Monroe. I loved being there, and I cherish every moment, every time I go to Hollywood, just to feel her presence. Next, I traveled to where her store was, which is right in front of the McDonald's, near the Hollywood Roosevelt. Everything is near the Hollywood Roosevelt. Maybe that's why it's my favorite hotel in Hollywood. I love the Hollywood Roosevelt. You need to go check it out. It's beautiful, beautiful. And Marilyn Monroe lived there for 2 years. Look, I'm getting off topic. But I went to see her store, to put my hand on her store. And I absolutely love being there. And every day that I'm in Hollywood, I travel to Mel's Diner, which has the best breakfast ever. If y'all ever in Hollywood, y'all need to try it. It's down the road from the Hollywood Roosevelt. And there's a lot of old Hollywood inside. And next to it is Ripley's, believe it or not, and a Hollywood museum where several of Marilyn Monroe's things are. So y'all need to check that out. Then I traveled to the home of where Hollywood actor Jonathan Brandis sadly took his life on November 12, 2003. Jonathan Brandis was the crush for every 90s girl. All of us girls who were born in the 80s and the 90s, he was the man. He was on all the teeny bopper magazines with his long blondish hair. He was so good looking. Everyone had a crush on Jonathan Brandis. But not only was he a hottie, a cutie, he was a great actor. He was on TV shows such as Blossom, Full House, movies such as Sidekicks, and my personal favorite, alongside Rodney Dangerfield, Ladybugs. He was an incredible actor, but sadly, Jonathan Brandis was suffering from depression. And on this night, he decided to take his own life. And at this place, at this home, he ended his life due to depression. And if anyone is suffering from depression out there, there is help. Like I always tell y'all, y'all can always reach out to me. And y'all can always call to get help or talk to someone. Don't ever think taking your life is the last resort. There are people out there that can help you. Next, I traveled to Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And this graveyard is absolutely beautiful. There are peacocks walking around, beautiful stray cats walking around. It is a gorgeous cemetery. And it is a cemetery where a very famous actress is buried, and a place where I wanted to visit for years. Yes, the grave of the famous Judy Garland, who sadly lost her life at such a young age. 47 years old, Judy Garland passed away. As I stood in front of her grave, which is beautiful, it is behind closed doors. You walk in, everything's marble. There's 2 rainbows on each side of her grave. I said to myself, this woman that I'm standing in front of made magic with the Wizard of Oz. at such a young age. She was wonderful. She was a great actress. And she did an amazing job in every single movie. Every single movie she was in, her voice was the voice of an angel. And I'm so happy that I got to visit her grave. But she is not the only celebrity buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. There is Burt Reynolds, who's gorgeous. There is Lana Clarkson, who I covered on my channel a few weeks ago, who was brutally murdered by Phil Spector. There is Anton Yelchin. And there is another personal favorite of mine, Estelle Getty, aka Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls. And I'm happy that I was there that day. I purchased a rose because on that day, July 25th, 2024, was the birthday of Estelle Getty. I was able to place a rose on her grave and wish her a happy birthday. And for those of you who do not know, I'm a huge Golden Girls fan. I have all the seasons on DVD, and I purchased all of them on my iPad as well. I watch them every morning as I'm getting ready for work. Let me tell you how old I really am. My brother knew how much I loved the Golden Girls. So when I was in middle school, my brother purchased the VHS tapes off of eBay from someone who had recorded every episode, and I would watch them repeatedly. That's how much I love the Golden Girls. I adore them. And I was there to wish Estelle Getty a very happy birthday. The next place I traveled to gave me the absolute chills. I visited the home where Dominique Dunne was brutally murdered by her ex-boyfriend. And when I tell y'all, it was insane, the chills that I got to know that John Sweeney strangled Dominique Dunne in the front lawn of that home. It was more for me to handle. It was the most chilling place I had been in Hollywood on the entire trip. I started having a severe anxiety attack and having trouble breathing. And do y'all know why? Because what Dominique Dunne went through that night, I went through some of the same things, and I could have been brutally murdered. It was very chilling for me to stand right there where she was murdered, and it was way too much for me. I cried the rest of the night, that night, thinking about what she went through on November 4th, 1982, when Dominique Dunne sadly lost her life to her ex-boyfriend, John Sweeney. She broke up with him, y'all. She left him. She changed the locks on her home. And she went outside that night to talk to him when he showed up at her home. And he brutally strangled her, murdered her to death for no reason, just because she didn't want to be with him. And if you or anyone you know is in a domestic violence relationship, there is help. You can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to someone else, and you can always step out of that relationship because you deserve better. No one deserves to be in a relationship where they are brutally beat. No one. And you do not want to end up like Dominique Dunne. There is always help to get out of a domestic violence relationship. On my last day in Hollywood, I decided to visit Spahn Ranch. And as you all know, Spahn Ranch is where the Manson family lives. Charles Manson and all his followers lived on Spahn Ranch. When I tell y'all it is beautiful, it is the most beautiful sight I had seen in Los Angeles since I had arrived. There are mountains everywhere. There are rocks alongside the roads, huge rocks, huge mountains. It's quiet. It's beautiful. The scene is breathtaking. And I said to myself, no wonder they lived out here. It is so secluded. You would have to be hidden all the time, which they were. They were way down at this ranch. When I was driving by, you feel that you're there. You feel the thought of Charles Manson playing his guitar, having sexual encounters with everyone there. all this free love, free spirit, dancing around campfires, getting high off of weed and acid, having classes about murder. You feel that you're actually there. You feel the presence of all of these people. And I thought to myself, we think it's weird that Charles Manson and his followers had this life of, in their minds, luxury. They thought this is the way to live. It's all this free love, free spirit, peace, love. But for people in the 60s, this was a great thing to do. To live out in the woods, find your food, have all this sex, get high, nobody worked, you sang and you danced all day. For them, it was a good life. Even though we may think it's weird, it doesn't sound weird. Because in the 60s, everyone wanted to do that life. Everyone wanted to be a follower of Charles Manson. But to know that he instructed all of his followers, Susan Atkins, Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, he convinced all of these people to kill for him. He would often be heard saying, "Would you sleep with other men for me? Would you die for me? Would you have children for me? And lastly, would you kill for me?" Which his followers did on the nights of August 9th and August 10th. Charles Manson ordered his followers to brutally murder several people, which they did. And as I visited that ranch, everything is overgrown. There's nothing else to see. And I didn't want to go down the cliff. You know, I don't want to be eaten by a bobcat or a bear. I don't know what's down there. But there is a cave where a famous picture was taken. And they said the cave is still there. They also said the tree is still there where Charles Manson and his followers would shoot guns for target practice. You still see holes in the tree. I went there to feel Spahn Ranch, to see what it was all about. And I can understand why Charles Manson and his followers lived out there. It is a very quiet place and is a place where no one would suspect they were living. My final thought, I always give y'all my final thought. And my final thought is, I believe that Hollywood, California is an amazing place. It has so much history in it. Hollywood is filled with old history. If Hollywood could talk, what would it tell us? What did Hollywood see? I would be amazed to know everything Hollywood, California endured. It is the best place to be if you like old Hollywood history, such as I. I love to go to Hollywood just to experience everything that's around me. There's so much to do in Hollywood. But for me, and it's not for everyone, for me, I like to go to different graveyards, to different cemeteries, to different crime scenes, to homes where things happened, to give y'all the knowledge of what I see. And on this trip was the very first time that I had so much knowledge as I researched and covered these stories on my channel. So this time was a whole different ballgame because I watched these documentaries. I watched the Wonderland Avenue. I watched Dr. Amy Hardwick. I watched Helter Skelter. I read the book. When you think about all of this that happened in Hollywood, it is very scary. But it's also very interesting on why these murders happened. Another thing that I found very interesting and very scary, I found a lot of murders took place in the month of August. And as you all know, today is August 1st. I was supposed to record this video yesterday, July 31st, but I just couldn't get it together. Between work, my daughter's cheer camp, my oldest daughter's starting her sophomore year in college, it was crazy. I couldn't get it together. So as I'm recording this video today on August 1st, I thought to myself, so many murders and death happened in August in Hollywood. We're going to start with Marilyn Monroe. The Manson murders, Dorothy Stratton, and the Menendez murders all happened in August. And I'm filming this video today on August 1st, 2024. So August in Hollywood is very different now to me, as a lot of things have happened. A lot of murders and a lot of deaths as well. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you liked listening to every place that I went to in Hollywood, California. I hope after this video that you like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to press on the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne Marie. I also want to tell y'all how much I love each and every one of y'all. And thank y'all so much for supporting me and subscribing and liking to my channel. I also want to tell y'all that being in Hollywood made me realize how lucky I am to have experienced all of these different sites and to go to these different places. I adore Hollywood, but my roots are here in Louisiana. I will be back in Hollywood in a couple of years. I try to go every couple of years to visit Marilyn Monroe's grave. I'm sure I'll be back in 2026 to celebrate Marilyn Monroe as she turns 100 years old. I enjoyed making this video for y'all. Actually, this is probably my favorite video that I ever made for y'all because I couldn't wait to tell y'all all about my experience with Hollywood. I loved being there and I couldn't wait to share every single moment with y'all. I loved making this video. And for you, I am truly grateful. I love you all very much and thank you again for all of y'all love and support. I will see y'all next week. Bye.